Okay, everybody, we're just going to give you a minute as you start rolling in here. Excited to be here with you all today. Just give you another minute to come on in. Yeah, while you're coming in, if you want to throw in the chat where you're coming in from, love to see who we've got, where everyone's from. All right, Fredericksburg. Hey, let's go. Awesome. Michael, good to see you today. So we're in Texas, but to here in Connecticut, it's like 70 degrees. It's crazy. Rochester, New York. Nice. All right. I don't know how warm it is over there in Rochester, but it's definitely warm here in Connecticut. So I want to just, oops, what did I do there? All right. So I'm ready to go here. So just excited to see, oh, it says attendee still on hold. I don't know if that's true or not. But I know you can all hear me. Everyone can see the screen. You want to, oh, 70s for sure, Suzanne, you know it. All right, well, you guys can definitely see me here. So I don't know why my screen says start broadcast, but I'm not going to worry about that. All right, everybody. So today we are going to introduce the first part of a 3-part series to help you implement AI-enabled accounts payable. Because why are we entering invoices? Why would anyone do that? Quadient is one of the few AI-enabled tools, and I mean AI-enabled tools that do their job really well. I mean, the tool works really great. We're not seeing a lot of errors happening, and that's really important to me. I want the least amount of errors as possible. And honestly, this is the cornerstone of streamlining your workflows. Okay, so we're going to look a little bit at the security on December 6th to see how you can use it to scale your firm, and then on January 15th as well. There'll be a QR code shared so you can register for those as well. But today, again, your AI-enabled accounts payable playbook part 1, streamline to maximize your firm's capacity. I know for myself, we are done hiring people. Oh, we're seeing the wrong screen. Okay, hang on. Let's see here. Sharing. Wrong show screen. Oh, we're seeing the wrong screen. You're right. Oh, what happened here? Here we go. Now you should see it. Just shoot me that. Shoot me and let me know if you're seeing the right thing now. Okay, good. Well, there we go. Okay, I'm messing you guys all up over there. So anyway, I'm really excited to talk about this because our capacity is where we struggle the most. And when I say that's where we struggle the most, it's because we are overworked with too much stuff to do. And so if we are managing accounts payable, we want to streamline that for many reasons. And we're going to get into that in a minute. So I'll introduce myself. My name is Dawn Brolin. I am a certified fraud examiner. So you can imagine that security is high on my priority list. So I'm a member of the Intuit Tax Council, also part of the ADP Advisory Board, the Avalara QuickBooks Advisory Board, and the president of the Accounting Cornerstone Foundation. That's something I'm super proud of. We are sending people to in-person learning. So if you are someone who has never been to in-person learning, then you may be interested in this because we are sending you with a scholarship to an in-person accounting conference. And so you can go to accountingcornerstone.org, and that will allow you to apply to receive a scholarship, and we'll be sending those out in the beginning of 2025. Happy for you to apply there. Or if you feel like you want to contribute and donate to some people to help them get to in-person learning, every penny counts. We will accept donations on that website as well. But something I'm very proud of is we want to help build others up so that everyone is winning as we all work through this together. So thinking about that, and just wanted to kind of introduce that to all of you so you know who I am. We'll move on. We will be joined here shortly with Matt Rhodes. He is an account executive at Quadient, which is awesome. Matt will be here to provide some insights, overview of the Quadient tools, some benefits, use cases to to help you. He's got the much bigger and broader experience than I do, so I'm looking forward to hearing from him. He'll do a short demo. We're going to try to leave 10 minutes towards the end for him to at least give you an idea of what that looks like. So we'll be doing that. And anyway, so he's got a proven track record. You can read his bio, as you can take the slides, of course. He's worked with hundreds of clients in automating their AP and AR. And he's a trusted partner in freeing accountants up to focus on more meaningful work. And I think as we all move towards what we call advisory work, we know that we need to automate things in a way that allow us to give better and bigger insights and have the time and capacity to do that versus hand keying accounts payable. And I know for myself, I've got a lot of experience with people and my clients specifically who have that folder still sitting on their desk with all of their invoices placed inside of it. Not much in a way of transparency or clarity for business owners when they have that information on a desk. Certainly, as we can imagine, one of the pieces that I like to throw in here for some color is we just had a couple of pretty darn big hurricanes, didn't we? We didn't here in Connecticut, but those of you in the South certainly have been hit with hurricanes, a lot of damage. And if we have clients with accounts payable sitting on their desk, we have the risk there of quite a bit of extra work in some cases of trying to reproduce and recreate that folder. Well, if we can get the documents off the desk, we'd never have to worry about that. So I'm finding that that's really, really important as we consider the way we're working with our clients. A lot easier for them to say, yeah, I just have a folder for my accounts payable, but that's not helping us with cash flow, future cash flow, and the things that we're doing in the advisory side of our practices. And so I think that's important. So as we think about that, we're going to talk about today's agenda. We're going to talk about leveraging AI-enabled automated accounts payable to streamline, secure, and scale your firm. What does that mean? If you're a full service concierge, a lot of you call yourselves the concierge service, you're doing a lot of things for the client, kind of anything they need. One of them may be accounts payable. Well, we want to streamline that accounts payable process for us to be more efficient, more effective, and free up our time. We also want it to be in a secure manner. We're going to talk a little bit about fraud as we go through this presentation today. And fraud is a terrifying thing. I've seen it happen more times than you can imagine. I had a client, a three-peat, I call them, a three-peat, which means it repeated 3 times they were embezzled due to accounts payable fraud. And so, after the 3rd time of me recommending technology for them to solve that problem, I think they finally listened, and I actually told them, don't call me again. Like, listen, if you can't get it, strike 3 or out, right? So security plays an important and critical factor when we're thinking about accounts payable. We're going to talk about that. And then how to transform your accounting practice with an automated accounts payable system, something you can offer to your clients, another piece of a pie as you as the trusted advisor will allow them to go ahead and automate these systems so that we can be more effective in many other areas. Matt, if you're here, I'd just love for you to say hello.
Hello. Can you guys hear me?
Can hear you perfectly, Matt.
Okay. All right. Little panic there at the beginning. Totally lost my audio. Don't know what happened. I had to restart my computer. Yeah, thank you so much, Don. Really great to be here. I'm not sure how much I missed it in the beginning, but just to introduce myself, I'm an account executive here with Quadient. So working with AP and AR teams on automating their workflows, reducing errors from manual processes, improving controls, approvals, reducing fraud, and so forth. So excited to be here and glad my mic is working.
There you go, Matt. Technology is great till sometimes it doesn't work, but it doesn't matter. You're here now, and that's all we care about. So yeah, excited to have you here. So today we just introduced the agenda, but what are some key takeaways that we want to focus on today? What is the goal here? What are we trying to accomplish? Okay, we want to streamline your firm's operations. So when I say your firm's operations, yes, will Quadient work for you and your firm so that Quadient can take care of your own accounts payable? Yes, but we're not limiting it to that. What we're saying is let's utilize the technology when we're working with clients and we're maybe, again, handling their accounts payable. We want to streamline that process. We want to enhance our efficiency. utilizing this tool with your clients will increase and enhance that efficiency. And unlocking additional workflow capacity. That is one of the things we all struggle with. And please, if you have comments, questions, or anything, throw them in the Q&A area, because I want this to be a conversation, not just Matt and I talking at you, but we want to talk with you. So feel free to put anything you have, any comments or questions in that question area. So we want to think about discovering the benefit of automating your accounts payable process. That's one of the things we're going to go through. What are the benefits? Because really, at the end of the day, we are trusted by financial professionals worldwide, by business owners worldwide, to help them reduce the manual data entry, right? They want to eliminate that just as much as we do, cutting the costs, eliminating risks, and allowing people to work remotely. Now, obviously, I said earlier that, in hurricane scenarios, people are now forced to work from home, or maybe not even their home because their home has been damaged. Whatever the case may be, when we can pick up a laptop or a MacBook or whatever it may be, and we're able to go to another location, I don't know, maybe in the Bahamas. Like if I'm pushed out of my home, that's where I'm going. That's my ticket. So we want to be able to make sure that we have that ability, not just the automation, but that transparency. So we're going to look at some practical tips, some best practices that'll help you implement immediately. Matt's going to be the master at that. He is the expert when it comes to how can he get us up and running as quickly as possible. And we want to implement AI-enabled automation tools to save time, like we said, but also reducing errors. I don't know about you, but I've made mistakes before. I know, call me crazy. So we want to think about how we can reduce those human errors and utilize our brains in a different way instead of just from this data entry and those types of things. So that's another piece that we're going to talk about today. So we're going to launch our first polling question. And the polling questions, I like to use these as learning about the people we're talking to. I want to understand who you are out there. Okay. So are you using automated accounts payable in your practice and recommending it to your clients? Are you doing that now? Very curious. Okay, so we've got a mixture here. Quite a few of you have not yet done this. I find this to be a really good, a potential niche area, niche, whatever you want to say, because this is a critical factor for many business owners. And I find, and I think I say this on every webinar, and I say it every year, but more now than ever, this year more than ever, people need to be paying attention to their cash flow. Accounts payable is a critical component to being able to analyze future cash flow based on accounts payable, accounts receivable, and being able to have those critical conversations. So this great poll, I see the bulk of you, 71% are not yet, 84% of you have voted, but 71% have not yet implemented something. So hopefully today you're going to find the benefits that we're going to be, serving up to you today, and thinking a little bit differently about your practice. And that'll be important. So how to transform your firm with an automated accounts payable solution. It's going to involve using technology, because we want to use that technology to digitize and automate that AP process. So we want to have that. We want the tool to do the work for us. We want to eliminate that manual intervention, right? And the benefits about that, automating those processes can significantly, errors, like we said, save the time and improve cash flow management. And Matt, as we think about the importance there, what are some of the things that you're seeing as you're talking to firm owners and business owners out there about why it's so important to them, and what are they finding for that big bang for the buck, the big benefit?
Yeah, I'd say it's a couple of things. Kind of at the first level, like you mentioned, reducing the errors that results from like data entry, or just managing the approval process, and the back and forth that tends to happen when people are trying to get invoices or POs approved. So that's kind of like the first layer is just, can we use technology to reduce errors that happen as a result of just human beings, right, entering your key invoices. But the second thing, or the second kind of layer is so we've reduced all of this manual work, we've reduced data entry, we've reduced the time it takes to follow up on approvals. What becomes the focus now? Because a lot of the conversation around like artificial intelligence or automation is, we really only want to automate the parts of our work that are necessary, but maybe not as fulfilling, or maybe a little bit more tedious, so that we can focus on vendor analytics, vendor negotiations. It could be financials, it could be accounts receivable. So I think for most folks, it's kind of flipping the switch of, am I just trying to reduce, like the manual steps? That's kind of the first step. But then also, where can I reallocate that time? So that way, I'm focusing on a little bit more meaningful tasks within AP or AR.
Yeah, and certainly one of the other pieces, and I'm sure we'll refer to it again, is when we have someone manually entering, and we don't have a system that can actually pick up the net 10, net 30, 2% discount and things like that, that can save money, I mean, I don't know about millions, maybe if they're a really large company, but definitely thousands of dollars in savings when it comes to supplier payments. And this is a tool that's going to be able to read off those types of discounts that maybe the bookkeeper, which I find, I don't know about you, what you're seeing, Matt, but out there in the industry, I'm seeing people are hiring people at a very low level, meaning anyone can enter an invoice.
Yes.
Right. And that's a problem.
Yeah, I actually talked to a customer yesterday. This is a real true story. It's a property management company. They have two, so to speak, AP clerks. And he was telling me kind of like what was sparking interest in looking at automation. And the reason was that he was doing his financials, and he realized that there was basically things weren't lining up. And so when he went and did an audit, a review of the bills, he found that 50% of his invoices had errors. And it would be like really, really simple things like, we have a water softening invoice, and it would be coded to like a utility. It would be coded to utilities, right? It'd be coded to the wrong GL because the person coding the invoice just didn't really have the context or kind of the, I guess, critical thinking, right? To know that water softening is not the same as water or sewage.
Right.
So this was half of this guy's invoices had coding errors, which isn't even really talking about like data entry. That's just like, context of knowing who the vendor is. And so for him, I mean, 50% of his workflow is like, for this guy, was like 150 invoices a month that basically needed like extra review. And that was just a result of not being able to hire people that were, higher competencies, and there's just a shortage of people who can do it. So that's part of the reason he was looking at automation.
And those are real life stories, and these are real dollars, by the way. And I think that's critical to point out. So we know in the importance of the automation of accounts payable, we know reducing the cost inefficiencies in the manual process. We've covered that. Leveraging the advantages of the automation for improved accuracy. We get that. Like we just kind of gave a few great examples about that. But as we think about it and we move on towards some other critical components, and I'm sorry, Matt, but my number one is number 3. So my favorite one is number 3 because I see it, because I've been involved in cases. We want to mitigate that fraud risk internally and externally. We are finding duplication of vendors. We're finding, in payroll situations, those are a little bit different than accounts payable, but what they're doing is they're adding themselves not only as an employee, but they have themselves in there as a vendor as well. And anybody just glancing over a GL where a check may have been written to an employee isn't shocking to people. We know that's an employee. We know that's a person, and it's much less of a risk, higher of a risk that someone won't detect that. But fraud is a massive problem. Estimates that in 2024, accounts payable teams face 7 trillion, everyone, 7 trillion in potential losses from fraud, errors, and non-compliance. And so you can look at the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners report to the nations for 2024 to look those up. And we're going to look at some other state of accounts payable research statistics in the next slide. But we have to understand that this could be a niche for your practice. Manufacturing, construction, think about healthcare. even one of those, anyone in any of those industries need to pay more attention to this area. I think that well, interestingly enough, one of the largest risks for a business, if they have accounts payable, is accounts payable. Higher risk than any other embezzlement scheme that could happen within a business. Okay, so tracking inventory, that can, tracking inventory can help streamline the approval process. Some other things that we can do. But being able to shift to advisory by niching in this area, something you should be getting paid for, an advisory consultation. It's definitely, we define that as operational services to clients who are at risk. So think about that for you and your clients and what you're thinking about, because really the clients can't afford it. I mean, it's an insane amount. I have a case that came out of New Hampshire. There was this really adorable older couple who owned a store, and they had a bookkeeper, and the bookkeeper like helped bring up their kids, did the babysitting, but also was their bookkeeper, family friend forever. Well, she was embezzling from those folks. They were expecting to retire. And after all these years, they find out that this woman has been embezzling from the beginning. And we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. And really detecting and preventing that fraud, we have no excuse. That's what I would say, Matt. I would say there's no excuse for someone to not at least minimize the risk. You can never eliminate it. Like, we know risk can't be eliminated, but we know it can be mitigated and minimized if we have tools in place. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah, and we've got to do that. Managing supplier risk with a robust vendor management framework, streamlining the invoice process with approvals and things that we're going to talk about. But detecting and preventing that fraud with an AI-powered tool, that's where we need to be. There's no excuse. And then, of course, number 4, adding value for clients with a secure and streamlined system. Those are some of the key important factors around that. Now, as we move on and we look at this, what I'm thinking about with regards to the state of accounts payable research, and this was in 22, it was a study of finance professionals in the UK. And here are some of the findings. So Matt, I'm going to go through the state of accounts payable research, and then I'm going to let you handle the cases for AP automation. So as we think about that, we're going to look at the data that supports the use of a platform like Quadient, by the way, to streamline your firm. That's what we're going to be focused on, plus all the security and efficiency it's going to offer. And so I'm just thinking 70% of AP professionals say manual processes are their top challenge. And that is a high percentage and a high number. So Matt, what's a good use case here for AP automation?
Yeah, so the manual processes that people are usually referencing, I'd say the top 2 are data entry and approval routing. So speaking just about data entry, like you're seeing on the right there, that 82% of data entry can be automated by OCR. OCR has actually been around quite a long time, but now that we're companies like ours are incorporating machine learning, there's verification of what the OCR is picking up. And for those who don't know, OCR stands for optical character recognition. So I like to think about it like if you've got an iPhone, you open up your camera. Let's say you're in Germany, right? You open up your camera, and you're going to take a picture of the train station. Your phone will attempt to capture the characters and translate them. That technology is OCR. That's what's picking up the characters on the sign, right? Same function applies to your bills, where most people are spending in our data collection. It's usually around 60% of the week for AP folks who spends on data entry. So if you've got one FTE, that's around 20-25 hours. They're keying in the vendor, the date, the invoice number, the totals, taxes, line items. In some cases, they're matching to a PO. So that OCR we can eliminate, and I would say it's even higher than 80. It's growing. I'd say it's around 90%, especially if they've got purchase orders. Eliminating that almost all of that data entry entirely.
Yeah, and that's, it's funny, Matt, because I tell Nicole on my team, she does the bookkeeping for our in-house bookkeeping clients. We only have around 17 of those clients. I tell her the moment she picks her finger up to put it on a keyboard when she's in a data file trying to, or in a QuickBooks file, we use QuickBooks, but when she's in a client's accounting system, if she puts her finger on the keyboard to enter something, we have to stop, because there's no reason for us at this point to be entering data.
Right.
So That's a really key and critical component, because the whole goal is to increase your capacity, to give if you want capacity, or if you're somebody who's like, you know what, I want to automate this process because I want to work less. That's, I hear more of that from practitioners than I hear of people wanting capacity. They want time back, right?
Right.
And so here's another great statistics that 70% of AP professionals say why am I raising the same thing? Is their top challenge. So tell us about the automated platform with flagging and fraud.
Yeah. So kind of speaking back to the fraud a little bit. So if you can imagine, you get an invoice, let's say from the vendor, let's say from Cavallo. Cavallo is the vendor, invoice number 1003. You get that invoice on Monday, and then over the next few days, you get a bunch of other invoices that you're keying in, and then you get another invoice from Cavallo, but you're always ordering from Cavallo. So it doesn't really even cross your mind that this could be a duplicate invoice. With tools like ours, because we're using that data capture and that OCR, we're flagging, okay, we've got a bill from the vendor Cavallo, and now we're seeing the invoice number 1003 2 times, right? So systems like ours, like Quadient, they're gonna flag that invoice as a duplicate. So that way you, the AP specialist or the controller, whoever it is, can go in and review, okay, is this actually a duplicate invoice, or maybe they just broke it out into 2 pages, so you can make that decision. But that's just one example of a way that the software basically is gonna take care of some of that fraud detection, that duplicate detection, that might be beyond what most folks are doing day to day just because of the volume of invoices.
Yeah, absolutely. That is critical. Again, I'm all about the fraud stuff, but I also like to move on and say, hey, accountants have been working 1 extra day a week since March of 2020. Now, interesting statistic about that, like we were saying, was, hey, listen, we want to maybe not just, we don't want to be able to have more capacity to work more. We want to decrease and get that 1 extra day away. We want to get that 1 extra day out of the way so that we can go back to what I'm going to call, with my air quotes in my hand right now, normal. And so automation is critical to that. I know in my firm, we've done that where, I work 25 hours a week. I don't work an hour more than that. A lot of times I work less than that because I've streamlined and automated everything that we're doing here to increase our ability to not work as much. So, that's a great use case, Matt, and your 76%.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we do like time studies with customers, like I'm always surprised at how often, I'm asking the customer, okay, how many full-time folks do we have dedicated to AP? And then I ask the question, so we're using, a 40-hour work week, let's say, how much of that time are we actually spending in overtime? Because when we're doing a business case and trying to, essentially justify the cost of the solution, the very first thing that we're going to try to reduce is that extra time spent, the extra day that's referenced in the study.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we think about those pieces, what are some best practices? And that's what we're going to kind of talk about here. But first, let's do a polling question. The second polling question, again, I want to kind of get a feel for what you guys are doing out there. Which automated accounts payable solutions are you using? Because 29% of you said that you were already using one. So I wanted to kind of tee this one up. So if we can get that poll launched, again, just trying to get a feel for what you're doing out there. So are you using something like Tipalti, Bill, I think it's called Bill now, Corpay One. So Avid Exchange is another one, Use is another one. And is anybody using any of these? And if it's an other, throw that in the Q&A. I'd love to hear what we didn't call out here for another solution that you might be utilizing. So yeah, and there are many out there, but what I would challenge people to think about is the level of AI interaction that there truly is within those platforms. Are they detecting and flagging duplicate invoices? All those types of things, approval processes, which I know some of them do have approval processes. But it looks like for those of you who are already using, which was the 29%, I believe it was 29, 40% are using Bill and 60% others, and no one's putting it in the chat. But that's okay. You don't have to tell me. You can hold it to yourself. But yeah, so I mean, Matt, give us just some ideas of why Quadient is in the lead, if you will, for accounts payable at this point.
Yeah. So, and I guess to answer that question, for some customers or for some companies, we're not the best fit for everyone, right? Just like Bill.com is not the best fit for everyone. Tipalti is not the best fit for everyone. So It's really going to depend on like the client's workflow. Obviously, the financial system plays a big part into it. Like QuickBooks, for example, there's a lot of different tools that work with QuickBooks. So I'll speak maybe specifically to QuickBooks. And I think Bill was the one that kind of had the highest, other than the ones that weren't necessarily disclosed. But I think the kind of two biggest differences we see with folks that come to us from Bill, maybe the two biggest pieces of feedback, is users and the system of record. So with respect to users, I believe that with Bill and some of these tools like Tipalti, there's a per license charge. And a lot of the reasons, or a big reason that folks reach out to an AP automation tool like us is because they don't need to necessarily add an extra license to their ERP, right? So they don't have to add an extra QuickBooks user. They can just add users to the AP tool. So with a solution like Bill, you're limited to the number of users, and then even within that, which modules or which functionality you can actually use with the users, or each user has access to. The second thing is the system record, and this is actually a big one. So with Quadient, we always use the financial system as the system of record. So that means when you see a list of vendors, for example, or a list of GL accounts inside of Quadient, that data is just being pulled from QuickBooks, just being pulled from the ERP. Whereas with Bill, and actually with Tipalti as well, the list of vendors, the list of GLs also exist in Bill.com. So you basically have two lists of vendors in each solution. And the number one, I would say, complaint I hear from customers that come from Bill and Tipalti is having to reconcile that vendor in both tools. And I'm sure there might even be folks on this call that's probably happened before, is you've got a vendor in Bill, you've got a vendor in your QuickBooks, and the two don't match up, so you've got a sync error. With us, It's simple, it's always pulled from QuickBooks. So those are just a couple things. There's a bunch that we could get into. Maybe I can talk a little bit too more about it on the demo portion.
Yeah, no problem. And so here are some of the highlights, which I'm going to let Matt kind of go through some of the pieces here that are, what are some of those insights and benefits, use cases that you're seeing, and speak to this slide here, because there's a lot of good information on this slide.
Yeah, so on this slide, just not to confuse anyone, let's talk about the Quadient Hub. So the Quadient Hub just allows access to a couple different or a few different solutions. So I'll kind of highlight the two on the right. On the right side of the screen, accounts receivable automation and accounts payable automation. So I'd say that we're probably one of maybe only a couple tools on the market, or a couple companies on the market, that offer AR and AP automation. So this allows you basically one area to access both platforms. Obviously, there's increased security with multi-factor authentication. That's obviously big now, single sign-on. But the idea here is that you can have one place for both of your workflows, AP and AR respectively. But kind of speaking again to some of the reasons that a company might use Quadient as opposed to something like Bill or some another tool, I would say anything that is going to involve multiple companies, so multiple legal entities. We handle multi entities really well. With most solutions like Bill, for example, you have to log in and out of each instance for that respective company. Whereas with us, you just apply the filter of which companies you want to see. So accounting firms, consultants, bookkeepers, they're able to manage all of their legal entities in one space without having to log in and out of different QuickBooks instances or ERP instances. Same thing goes for users, like we mentioned, multiple or unlimited users. So just a couple of things. I don't want to get too much into the AR automation side of things, but because I don't overwhelm the webinar. But yeah, I think in that space we're seeing a lot of movement as folks reaching out to us for both AP and AR.
Nice. Yeah. So I think that the increased security, the MFA, is definitely multi-factor authentication, which everybody hates, but we have to do it, right? It's part of the part of the deal. Like every time I come in my office and I want to go into Lacert, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna code again. Yeah. But it's really it's for our protection. We just don't like to be
totally. And then yeah, this slide brings up another great point too. So I know with it's kind of mixed with QuickBooks users in particular, but things like purchase orders. So with Quadient, what's nice is the entire AP workflow from requisition all the way to payment can be done in one place. So some of these solutions, I'll point to Bill as an example, they're built through acquisition, right? So they've got an invoice module, that's like the OG Bill.com, the original Bill.com, and then they've got expenses, which was Divvy, which was acquired and then kind of put the two together. Whereas with us, you get the whole process from requesting the purchase, creating the PO, matching the PO, matching the invoice to the PO, paying the bill, and then credit card reconciliation and employee reimbursement, all in one space, and of course integrated through the ERP.
Yeah, and I think that those are pieces that, you know, again, as benefits that we can highlight. So here are some more. This is quite a list of differentiators, Matt, that you guys have, and I don't think we really have time to go through all of them, but if there's a couple you maybe want to call out.
Yeah, we can, and some of this will come up in the short demo, but I would say, yeah, big one on the bottom right, the multi-entity view. If you got multiple companies, you know, a lot of these tools, they struggle with handling multiple legal entities, especially when it comes to actually exporting the data into the ERP. You know, they've got to sync it per company. So for example, I just had a customer, they had 24 legal entities, right? And so when it came to time to actually push the data into, in this case, it was a QuickBooks customer, you can imagine having to do that 24 times every time you want to push an invoice over could be super cumbersome. The other one I'll call out is just the fast implementation. So like it says, about 6 hours. We generally call this 3 meetings. First meeting, integration. Second meeting, go out the workflow. Third meeting, training. So we don't just give you the product and say good luck. Walk you through how to use it.
Yeah, that's critical. I know for myself, I like to do this. Oh, just give it to me. Just give me a login and I'll just go play with it. And then that just totally wrecks everything. So it's good to take advantage of that. But, you know, obviously, as we think about moving forward and how we're doing the various things, delivering valuable insights at speed, obviously data and analytics are always critical. We want to have that data. We want to understand that. Knowing that by 2025, cloud native platforms will serve as the foundation for more than 95% of new digital initiatives. And that's a high number, Matt.
Yeah.
It's a big number, right? But we're used to that. We've been watching this happen over the course of time. And it's like, so many people are just starting to maybe grasp the concept of it, but I feel like they're catching on faster in the recent, I'd say years, recent and meaning 24, 23, and 24 probably. But people are understanding that as we move forward, we've got to utilize the AI. We've got to utilize it, let it streamline, let it do the things that it wants to do. So I don't want to hang up too much on this one, but everybody always wants to know, well, what do you integrate with?
Yeah.
Right? So here we are.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, just like on the screen, I mean, most of these ERPs are pretty common ones that we see all the time. So obviously, all the cloud versions like Intact, NetSuite, QBO, but also some of the more on-prem solutions like Sage 50, Dynamics GP. I know those tools, sometimes it's hard to find a solution that'll work with those just because they are on-prem. And then not pictured here is basically any custom ERP or any ERP that's not listed, we can do custom integrations with now. So pretty much covers anything that you could possibly imagine.
Yep, absolutely. So this, I don't know why this one's blank, so we'll skip over the blank one. But I think this is the point where, I don't know, that was just if you wanted to think about nothing for a second, there you go.
Yeah, we need that. Yeah.
So I think this is actually a good time. Here's just a screenshot of what Matt's going to start getting into. I'm going to give you a second here, Matt. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and allow you to share your screen so people can kind of see what the heck is going on there. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen.
Okay.
And now
let me make sure I'm sharing the right one here. That's always scary. Hang on one sec. All right, let's see. Okay, everyone can see the platform okay?
Yep, I see it perfectly.
All righty, perfect. Quick thing to note, just to familiarize everyone with what we're looking at, on the left-hand side, we've got our 4 modules: expenses, purchase orders, invoices, and payments. Top of the screen are the workflow tabs. So everything starts out at new and then moves to archived. Middle of the screen is just your list view of invoices. And in between, we have our filters that show us what's going on across legal entities, as well as departments and divisions. A quick note, I am using a Sage instance, so it's a Sage APA For anything that's like, let's say QuickBooks or NetSuite, right, it would just say Quadient AP, so not to cause any confusion there. Again, in the filters, so this is that multi-entity view we were talking about. So I've got a bunch of different companies in here. In fact, with also multiple different ERPs like Sage, QBO, NetSuite, and so forth. And then the org units are just a reflection of the client's org structure. So in this dummy account, we've got our org units, marketing and sales. If I want to see invoices that are related to those departments, I'll just click apply. In terms of users, again, unlimited users, and of course we can limit the permissions and restrictions of those users. So that way folks are only seeing what's relevant to them. As an example, I, as an employee, when I log into Quadient, I can only see the expense module, right, to create expense reports, whereas my VP can create expense reports and he can approve sales invoices. So that way, again, from a control perspective, folks are only seeing what's relevant to them. They're not overloaded with information when it comes either to training or for control. I'm going to put a sample bill through the software just to see what this what's picked up. So I've got a fake invoice here from our vendor Cavallo. I'll change the invoice number to 33333. We've got 3 line items here: door locks, gadgets, and hats. I'll change this to Wednesday webinar. And then I'll drop this invoice in platform. So that's going to take about 30 seconds to read the bill. You can see it also has a PO number on there, so we can expect it to match the PO. I'm only going to cover invoices today, just in the interest of time. But while that's warming up, so here's a sample bill. The way that the invoice gets in the tool is, for most folks, they've got a dedicated AP inbox where where vendors are sending bills. Those ones are really straightforward. We're just going to use auto forwarding rules to pull those invoices in. If you've got anything paper, you can take a photo with our mobile app or upload it into the inbox like I did with the Cavallo bill. And this is the stage where we're going to pick up all of the data off the invoice. So for most companies, around 70 to 80% of their invoices are recurring, where their items are typically coded the same way. So for example, line item description Motorola EA15 coming from Cavallo is generally coded to 1881. So the system's going to learn that pattern as it's going through the tool. Again, if there's a PO, it'll match to the purchase order. And a nice difference too with some of the competitors, right, is if you've got multi-line invoices, we can also pick up those for you as well. We'll see if this bill is done. Should be done.
So just so you know, I love the fact that it captures, not only does it capture that information, but it also in the memo puts the description of the line item, because I know for us, in the past, we've had clients who, the invoice will come in and it go over to the accounts, it'll go over to QuickBooks, let's just say, right? And we're pulling in tools or materials or something. And we're finding, oh, well, wait a minute, there was a backhoe that was purchased for 10 grand, but the memo tells us, instead of, we're like, hey, what was this? This is one of the critical things I think for us as practitioners, is that we can be managing and looking at these invoices and what these people are paying for, and stop sending them the ask the client list. This is going to eliminate the need for that. I wouldn't say eliminate, minimize, like significantly minimize the number of questions you're going to have for a client. Because number one, you're going to be able to see the invoice. Number two, if you're just focused on your accounting and you're looking through your accounting, you can always refer back over to Quadient to take a look at what's going on. That's just really powerful to me as a practitioner.
Totally. And so this is the bill that we just fed in the tool. You can see it picked up all the header information. It picked up the line items, Wednesday webinar. And if you'll notice, standard gadgets and hats were already coded. So I didn't do that. The system already has learned that behavior in the past. Wednesday webinar we've never seen before. So we'll select the GL that we're pulling in from the ERP and submit for approval. You'll notice too, this is actually a duplicate invoice. So I used an invoice number that has been in the system before. It flagged it, and it's going to show me, oops, looks like I've uploaded a bunch of these before, right? So I can come in and either delete these. Yeah, you're talking in sales, not in accounting.
No, but that's critical in showing, that is not abnormal where an invoice has been entered more than 2 times. So
right, yeah, and you'll see too on the right-hand side here the duplicate indicator. So that's going to show you that these invoices have duplicates. Once that invoice has been submitted for approval, it's going to be routed to our approvers. So in this case, let's say I'm Tom, I've got some invoices to approve. I can view the approval matrix and where it is. So this one's with me, and that's it. Once it's done, it's going to be ready to be exported. But there might be several people in this channel. And then to approve the invoice in the top right, approve or reject. If I reject it, it's going to trigger a comment. So this is one of those steps where there's typically a lot of back and forth. So hopefully we can eliminate that by requiring a comment to indicate why it's being sent back. We'll also give you metrics. So for those of you who like to really get into the nitty gritty of your users, we'll show you who your slowest approvers are, so to speak. So you'll be able to see exactly, how long, in this case, Tom's taking to approve the invoice, and then with that information, be able to set up some additional notifications for that user. After it's approved, the flows are ready to export. This is the most important step in the whole tool, but it's kind of boring to show. I'm going to select my bills and hit the export button. And that is the sync over to the ERP. That's it. Once it's approved or once it's exported, it flows to archived, and this is your digital filing cabinet. So it's where we can take advantage of these filters at the top here to run basically any report that you could possibly imagine. Some tools offer canned reports. They'll give you a few kind of standard reports you can run, but these filters here at the top, you can run anything that you could possibly think of. So let's say I want to look at vendor, Air Canada and ABC Furniture. Maybe I want to drill in even further by looking at their GL account, right? So I'll do GL and then select the ones I want to see. Once I've got what I want in a report, I'll generate a PDF. And this comes in handy, especially when there's an audit, right? Or the auditor wants to see an approval history or an audit trail of what happened to that invoice or that PO as it went through the tool. So we'll give you a summary of what we've been invoiced from this vendor, the invoice images, and then there's that approval history that our auditors like to see of who approved what when. So I know there's a ton more that we could show you in the software today, but I want to be cognizant of our time. So I'll let Don, I'll let you take the screen sharing back.
All right, sure. I'm happy to do that. So I won't bore anybody with that, but my questions are always fun. But let's see, I'm on monitor 1. Okay, good. You can see that okay? Everybody's back? We can see? Okay, good. All right, so again, as we kind of went through the key takeaways, I think after seeing the tool, live and seeing what Matt was showing us, which was awesome, we know that the efficiencies around that. I love the ability that you can export PDFs and the reports. And yes, if you are working for, we can even call out nonprofit organizations as definitely, if you're a nonprofit, if you service nonprofits and they're at a certain level and they're being audited, that's definitely, this is an area where you'll be able to really give that auditor some detailed PDF reports about when they send you that sample and they want to see everything. You're going to be able to print out the invoice, the PO, all of the things showing the approval, all of the pieces that they're looking for when they are auditing. And maybe it's a publicly traded company that you work for, that you're doing some consulting work for. This is a great way for you to be able to get what they need in a very detailed but quick and efficient way. And I just found that part to be really exciting. The approval process, I just want to say also from a security perspective, the approval process is critical. The fact that it's tracking who is approving, because I don't know about you, but I've had instances where a business owner will come to me and say, hey, I didn't approve that. Like, why was that bill paid? I didn't approve that bill. And when you can pull out the audit trail, if you will, and say, well, you approved it on this day at this time exactly. As a matter of fact, it took you 4 days to approve it in the first place. Like and it's not that you want to defend yourself, but sometimes we have to defend ourselves. That's one great way to be able to do that. But certainly from the fraud perspective, the flagging, that is huge, Matt. The flagging of those duplicate invoices. And I know whether it's a demo account or not, I think that was like really cool. So we have a really good question here. Let me pop this thing out so I can read it better. Here's a couple questions for you, Matt, as we get towards the end here. But here's a great one, Helen. Great question. Can I import purchase orders rather than using your module? we have a CMMS system that creates PO. So they have a separate PO system.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, that's probably more common than creating POs inside of Quadient, just because folks might be using inventory or tracking receivings. So the way it would work is we would just import the committed purchase order and receivings if applicable. And that way, when the invoice comes in, it's just matched up to the PO that you've already created.
Awesome. And that's great. So that's definitely where you're not duplicating systems, but rather, and this is something, Helen, that I know for myself, looking at the various applications that we all are introduced to on a very regular basis, is that you may take, and I'm going to use a practice management tool example. You may pick a practice management tool that has, all the workflow that you need to do and all those things, but it also offers billing and also offers time tracking. Like, if you already have a billing system that works, why would you change it just because this other tool has that built inside of it? So that's one of the things for me is I'm going to use that tool for what works best for me. And in this case, for you, Helen, it's going to work awesome for your invoicing, and you don't have to disrupt the existing PO system if it's working. I tell people, don't break something that isn't broken. Don't fix anything that's not broken. But in this case, it sounds like this is a great supplement to the system you're already using for POs. So Matt, we have another question here for you. When I reject an invoice and make a rejection comment, why can't the assigner see my rejection comment? Where would they be able to see it?
Yeah, good question. In fact, I'll share my screen just once more here.
Yeah, here, I'll stop sharing and go for it. Because I actually saw some, there was some commenting to the right that I wanted you to comment on. So let's go.
Yeah. Let's see here. Okay. So if I go to a invoice, you can see that there's actually, this one doesn't have any, but there's kind of two layers of comments. There's comments that are available whether or not you were approving or rejected. They might just be context that we want to provide to the invoice here on the right. Let me find one that actually has a reject. Let's see here. So I'm going to use my status indicator, and I just want to look at rejected invoices.
I love that filtering.
Yeah, so you can see on the right-hand side here. So approval progress. So Tom, when he rejected it, wrote wrong GL account, and then Avi, when he approved it, wrote approved during submission. So you're going to see that when it's kicked back when the person rejects it.
Awesome, that's great.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Let me see, is there any other questions? I don't see any other ones in here. So I guess we can go ahead and, if you want to stop sharing, we'll get towards the end here. All right, we're going to do screen one, show my screen, so you should be able to see that again. So great question. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. I think it's Riza. Okay, doing my best. And then of course, as we're thinking future ready, when you really want to think about continuing and continuously improving and adapting for your clients. Like, they're not necessarily thinking, I got to make sure that I'm, forward thinking when it comes to my accounts payable. That's like not their thing. That's not what they're specializing in. So we have to kind of be that eye for them. And certainly, this, by the way, as I mentioned in the beginning, this is the first part of this AI-enabled automated accounts payable playbook. And so we touched on security, we touched on scalability. And as Matt showed us, having a hub like Quadient makes implementing all of these tools so super simple. And you could see how easy it was for him, which means you can streamline your firm, but you can also streamline your clients' accounts payable process. And I call, by the way, this productivity season, everybody says tax season, busy season. I call it productivity season. So the more and more I can improve my processes, and there's no better time than present to improve a process. If you don't have this in place for yourself, or you have clients that you could be consulting with to implement these types of processes before it gets a little crazy, right? So that's something that's really important. I would say, obviously check it out, get a demo, register for the next December 6th part of our playbook that's coming up. And so right here, I just want to move to the next screen here. Do you want, are you interested? Do you want to book a Quadient demo? You can use your phone and you can use the QR code to go ahead and book yourselves a demo with maybe Matt. I don't know, Matt, just Matt doing it. Maybe there's some other people doing it, but maybe you can request Matt. That might be a thing, right, Matt?
Please, yeah, please do.
Right. So
Everyone here's totally great. They're all more than capable. So
that's awesome. So make sure you're doing that. If you want to, like I said, here's a poll here. So if you're interested in a demo, we'll get in touch with you. But certainly check it out. If you're not asking for a demo today, consider it in the future. And I would say sooner than later, to be honest with you. And sit down and evaluate your client base. Look at the clients that you have and say, hey, this might be a really good fit for this client. We've been really struggling with accounts payable, or we're not doing any future cash flow projections, which, by the way, folks, you should be doing, right? So let's think about how we can implement this to not only make our jobs easier and the accounts easier, certainly preventing the risk of fraud, but also improving that relationship that you have with your clients and assisting them with FP&A services, forecasting, budgeting, and looking to the future for them and not just the present, or typically we like to look at the past. And so I want to just say, Matt, thank you so much for jumping on here. If you want to connect with me, please feel free to do so. I'm out there, I'm on the webs, I'm all over the places. LinkedIn, message me if there's anything that I can do to help, guide and advise you. But this has been a really great time, Matt. Anything you want to end with here?
No, yeah, thank you so much, Don. Great to be with everyone. Sorry for the technical issues at the beginning. But yeah, would love to talk to you guys more and learn more about the specifics in a demo. Yeah, great to be here.
Awesome, and hope to see you guys all on December 6th. And everyone, enjoy the rest of your week, and we will talk to you again soon. Take care.